Okay, so something that really interests me is the history of art and performance in inner city Sydney. The focus of a lot of my personal research has been on the history of performance in King's Cross, and with Alaska being located in King's Cross, I wanted to bring an element of that into focus into the artists that I selected for the Freefall program. Probably the most obvious person I could think to pick for that is Imogen Kelly, who started off, some of her career started off performing in clubs, underground clubs and strip clubs in King's Cross, I believe in the 1990s. And she's risen to be the queen of burlesque, not only in Australia, but internationally was awarded Queen of Burlesque in 2012 in Vegas. We got her to perform in the Cube for the 4th week of part 2. Her performance was called Porcelina of the Vast Oceans, and it was partly a burlesque performance changing into a series of different sea creatures over the space of 2 hours with different costumes and lighting. It was inspired by, I guess, the plight of the Great Barrier Reef at the moment, which is under threat. So it came from a place of concern for the beauty of the ocean and of that space in Australia. And one of the great things about Imogen's work is she uses a lot of puppetry in her burlesque routines and her performances, and there were a lot of elements of puppetry in the costumes that she used for her underwater creatures, which was very entertaining for the audience. The performance that I did for the closing week of Freefall was called B-Girl Rhapsody, and it was an extension of the solo show that I had at Alaska Projects in King's Cross in September this year. And it was looking at the history of, it was a continuation of a larger project looking at the history of dances in the Cross. My performance for Freefall shared the same name, so it was called B-Girl Rhapsody, and I viewed that as a parody of a durational performance. So I did a durational fan dance, and it was combining elements that were also part of my B-Girl Rhapsody installation. So that installation, I did have my ostrich feather fans on the wall. There were different, I guess, nightclub lighting techniques that I used in the space. So it was combining this classic beauty or classic idea of burlesque with something kind of tacky and contemporary. So I danced wearing all white with white fans and a UV blacklight fan, which is one of the tackiest things that you can see in a contemporary nightclub. But the effect of it was something quite, I guess, ghostly or eerie, which also ties into my practice, creating a lot of iconic or religious looking spaces or shrine-like spaces. So I became that angelic creature dancing in the nightclub. So my love of parody and burlesque also extends into the work of Daniel Moody Cunningham. His performance was called Fuck a Duck and was a parody of Hey Hey It's Saturday character Pluck a Duck, which was a segment on the weekly TV show, which he grew up with, I grew up with, and was a big fan of that segment. And he took on that role, but it had a lot of extra subversive qualities to it. So he was a bit of a low-rent Pluck a Duck. And it was an interactive performance. So he also invited people into the space to interact with him, and it got quite wild. There were pillow fights, there were feather fights. The fan got clogged up with feathers, it got super hot in there, super sweaty, and it was a super fantastic performance. So complete contrast to Daniel's artwork was Angela Go's performance. She's one half of Tiger Tiger, which is a duo of Megan Clune and Angela. Megan is the director of Alaska Orchestra, and I'd asked her because that is such an integral part of the larger Alaska program, and I wanted her to be involved. Unfortunately, she fell ill on the evening of Freefall, So in true free-falling style, Angela picked up and did a solo performance on the night. And she's very interested in meditation and performing or enacting different meditative states. And she's a trained dancer, but for this she did something quite quiet. She meditated in the space for 2.5 hours straight. And I have no idea how she did that in such a bustling space with 2 live bands on either side and people knocking on the walls, but she remained still for 2.5 hours and she got a round of applause at the end of it. And of course, being the inner city, I never really shy away from the grungier side of art or performance. And someone who came to mind was Jack Mannix, who has been a figure on the local art and music scene for the past decade. And I recall him sneaking into clubs when he was well underage. And he has quite an online following of fans of his photography and his music. And so what he did for his performance, which was called Notes from the Void, was he was taking live requests and answering live questions from inside the space on Ask FM. He just took over the space and hung out and just was being Jack, being himself. Wrote in lipstick, danced with a flag. And the space was, it was quite beautiful. It was littered with little methadone bottles and other bits and pieces from you know, his personal space.